Chu Tang, after this matter is over, can we remarry? In the villa compound, when I was sitting on a stone bench in a daze, Guhan brought Jianxi to me. Just 3 hours ago, Jianxi was exposed by paparazzi as Guhan's lover. The whole network was digging up her past, scolding her for being the mistress who intervened in the sweet love between Guhan and me. Guhan's image as a loving wife collapsed, and the stock price of Gu Group began to fluctuate. In the previous life, when Guhan came to me with a divorce agreement, I hated to pull out all the roses he raised for me in the yard, and hysterically questioned his relationship with Jianxi. Obviously, she was just the daughter of my mentor, and there were thousands of ways to solve it, but he chose to sacrifice me, just because he didn't want Jianxi's depression to worsen. But what Guhan didn't know was that during the time when the hot search was fermenting, I was also diagnosed with moderate depression. Chu Tang, Guhan called me again, pulling me back from my trance. I lowered my eyes and set my gaze on the divorce agreement on the stone table. He knelt on one knee at my feet, looking at me with a pair of deep eyes, and wrapped my hand with his burning palm. His tone was coaxing. Chu Tang, just think of it as for me, okay? We announced to the public that our marriage has long been in name only. We had planned to divorce a year ago, but we just didn't find the right time. I hesitated to speak. Behind him, Jianxi was wearing a white dress, with Guhan's coat on her shoulders. Her lips were pale and her eyes were red. Sister Chu Tang, please help me. Okay, my mother committed suicide because of depression due to online bullying. I don't want to follow my mother's old path, sister. I'm kneeling down for you. Please help me. As she finished speaking, when she was about to bend down and kneel, Guhan stood up very quickly, supported her, and held her in his arms with familiarity. With an ugly face, he whispered, "What are you doing?" Jianxi choked. Her voice was delicate and tearful, and then she closed her tearful eyes. I just want to make my sister feel better." Guhan's eyebrows were immediately filled with impatience, and he looked at me, and the original tenderness completely faded away. Chu Tang, I didn't come to you to discuss it with you. I have decided on this matter. If you don't want to divorce, then don't blame me. I raised my eyes lightly to meet his gaze, and his subsequent words stopped abruptly, but I know what he is going to say. He wants to say, "Chu Tang, you know my methods. I have thousands of ways to make you sign obediently. If you have to file for divorce, you can't win over Gu's lawyers." This was his original words in the previous life. Later, I was designed to go to the bed of several male models, and the evidence of cheating was set in stone overnight. I became a slut who cheated on her husband and suffered from public opinion, and he and Jianxi became innocent victims. I can sign, but you have to promise me one thing. After a long time, I said. Guhan looked up at me and nodded in agreement. He handed me a pen, and after I took it, I signed my name on the divorce agreement without any ripples. Don't you want to look at the agreement again? Guhan frowned and asked me. I smiled. No need. He almost left the house with nothing and gave me all his property, just for Jianxi to repay a favor. Take time to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow, okay? I said. Guhan's hand holding the divorce agreement paused slightly, and there was a bit of confusion in his eyes when he looked at me, but in the end he said nothing. When they left, Jianxi looked back at me sarcastically, and his thin lips opened and closed silently. You lost. I did lose. I lost my whole life. So I don't want to lose now. After a while, my mobile phone interface lit up. It was a message from Guhan. I'm sorry for what happened today, Chu Tang. After this is over, I will give you a grand wedding banquet and we will remarry. I can't watch Jianxi's depression worsen. You can forgive me, right? I couldn't help laughing when I saw this sentence, with tears in my eyes. It was the same in my previous life, in order to force me to divorce. Guhan found his friends to come up with a plan and got drunk, but he forgot that his friends are also my friends. Jiang Yuan tried his best to persuade Guhan not to sacrifice his marriage for Jianxi. At the same time, he mediated with me, asking me to try to understand Guhan, saying that Guhan is a man of friendship. If Jianxi's father hadn't seen Guhan's ability, invested in him, and helped him start a business, Guhan wouldn't be where he is today. At that time, I cried and retorted. Guhan can have thousands of ways to clarify this matter. Why must he divorce? Jiang Yuan was silent. He asked Guhan, and Guhan replied at that time, I have to let someone down. I can only let a Tang down. She loves me and can understand me, because I love him, so I sacrificed me. How can it make sense? Fortunately, I still have a chance. As long as it is about Jianxi, Guhan always handles it very quickly, just after signing the divorce agreement from me during the day. He arranged a press conference in the evening and asked his assistant to invite me to attend to clarify. I haven't spoken yet. The assistant thought I was going to refuse, but fortunately told me what Guhan asked him to bring. He said, Ms. Chu Tang, you should attend this press conference. Even if it is not for Mr. Gu, it is for your reputation. I was stunned for a second, and finally sneered, Guhan is threatening me. He tried to use the methods he used to deal with me in the last life to force me to compromise, throw dirty water on me, and let me struggle under public opinion. In the end, I could only bend down and bow my head. I have never figured out whether Guhan treats me as a wife or an enemy. Now he wants to publicly clarify his relationship with me. I am no exception. The press conference was arranged in the lobby of the most luxurious hotel in northern Beijing, and the most influential reporters in the industry were invited to attend. When Jianxi appeared in a cheongsam with Guhan on her arm, reporters swarmed over instantly. Guhan subconsciously protected Jianxi behind him and smiled to block the microphone for her. I will answer your questions one by one later. Now, please make way for me, okay? His voice was gentle, and when he looked up, he happened to bump into me, who was also surrounded by reporters. When our eyes met, I was still vaguely expecting that Guhan could help me out, but the next second, he moved his eyes away lightly, with a smile on his lips, and walked to the stage with Jianxi. As if he had never seen me, I curled my lips sarcastically. The reporter closest to me was probably an intern. He timidly handed me the microphone and asked, "Ms. Chu Tang, are you really divorced from Mr. Gu?" "Yes," I smiled and nodded in answer. The intern pushed his glasses. "But you and Mr. Gu met in high school, dated for 7 years, and married for 5 years. Mr. Gu spent a lot of money to buy an island for you last month and named it after you." I was still smiling, but the smile did not reach my eyes. That's what he owed me. In order to take care of the sick Jianxi, he missed my birthday and gave me a gift. In my previous life, I was still complacent about this matter, but later I found out that this idea was from Jiang Yuan, and this island was chosen by assistant Guhan, and he didn't even know where the island was. "Do you still love Mr. Gu now?" She looked at me nervously, and the reporters around me also quieted down, and Guhan on the stage also looked at me. He frowned slightly. I just looked at him calmly and said with a curved lip, "No more love." I didn't stay until the end of the interview. After Guhan clarified that his marriage with me had been in name only a year ago, I left. Overnight, I became a second-hand commodity that Guhan didn't want, and Jianxi became the only innocent victim in this public opinion. The interview that day was pinned on the social platform for several days, and the topic has been hot, especially the words that Guhan said. "Chu Tang and I had planned to divorce a year ago, but the time was not right. Originally we wanted to handle it low-key, but now it has affected innocent people, so we have to clarify it publicly. Miss Jianxi was not the intruder in the breakdown of our relationship. She is my teacher's only concern in this world. It is understandable that I take care of her more. I hope everyone will look at this matter rationally." Some fans were led to say that the reason for the breakdown of my relationship with Guhan was that I could not tolerate any sand in my eyes, and thought that their pure brother-sister relationship and so-called kindness were dirty. He also said that I was petty and not generous enough. After 5 years of marriage, I didn't learn the loyalty and righteousness from Guhan. The topic fermented for several days. I became the target of public criticism. After getting the divorce certificate and coming out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, Guhan stopped me and said, "Don't take what is said on the internet to heart. It won't be long before everyone forgets it." I stopped and couldn't help but chuckled. We were both abused on social platforms. Why is there such a big difference? "Chu Tang, the Chinese New Year will come in 2 months. Let's remarry at the beginning of next year, okay?" He looked at me, and when he was about to approach me, I took a step back and moved my eyes indifferently to the reporter who was blocked by the bodyguard not far away. Guhan seemed to realize that something was wrong and stopped where he was. "Guhan, I'm going back to Hong Kong. You really haven't been back for a long time. It's good to go back. I'll pick you up after the new year." "Not coming back," I interrupted Guhan calmly. His faint smile froze on his face, and there was a bit of confusion in his eyes. I said again, when I agreed to sign the divorce agreement, "You promised me something, and now it should be fulfilled." Guhan looked at me in a daze. When I was just reborn, I took a few seconds to digest my love and hatred for Guhan. The moment I saw the divorce agreement, I thought about tearing it up and making a scene with him again, but in the end reason prevailed. After a long time, I smiled with my lips curved. "Guhan, I hope you will never appear in front of me again." When Chu Tang finished speaking with a smile and retreated into the crowd, Guhan was slow to react. For a moment, he felt an inexplicable panic, as if he was about to lose the most important thing. Just like the day Chu Tang calmly signed the divorce agreement, feeling uneasy in her heart, she didn't make a fuss, as if she had anticipated all the outcomes, but Chu Tang was still making a fuss about him forgetting her birthday a while ago, and he was even slapped by Chu Tang. He thought he had proposed a fake divorce. Chu Tang would go crazy and make a fuss with him, and he was even prepared to deal with it, but she didn't. She picked up the pen. Her expression was as calm as a pool of stagnant water. At that moment, he had the idea of stopping Chu Tang, but in the end he did nothing. He thought, it doesn't matter, Chu Tang loves him very much, they are just a fake divorce, and he will compensate her well in the future. But Jianxi is different, she can't be hurt because of him. If it weren't for Jianxi's father's appreciation of his talent, he risked being kicked out of the shareholders' meeting and decided to invest in his project. Take him to grow up and become a new elite in Beijing North. He wouldn't have achieved what he has today. He is not worthy of Jianxi. Before Jianxi's father died, he hoped that he would protect Jianxi and live a healthy life. He didn't want to be a treacherous villain. Jiang Yuan asked him, if one day, Jianxi and Chu Tang fell off the cliff at the same time, who would you save? He laughed at that time, thinking that this question was too low level. He would save Jianxi. But he would die with Chu Tang. Jiang Yuan laughed with him, but he asked himself, what if Chu Tang didn't want to die? Guhan, you can't always wrong Chu Tang because she likes you. If she can't feel your love, she will be desperate. He didn't think so that day. He never even took this sentence to heart. Unexpectedly, it finally came true. At night, Guhan still went back to the villa. Since marrying him, Chu Tang has been living in a villa halfway up the mountain. She is an outstanding painter. When she was 10 years old, she was crowned as a talented young painter for her extraordinary landscape painting. Everyone thought that she had extraordinary attainments in Chinese painting and would become a leader in this industry, and later it was indeed the case. But after marriage, Chu Tang's painting style changed and was no longer the same as before. Chu Tang's teacher tried to enlighten her with heart, but the effect was not significant. Later, Chu Tang gave up painting and even resisted picking up the brush. Guhan walked into Chu Tang's studio. When he saw the landscape painting on the drawing board, he was stunned for a moment. A few strokes, but vivid. Chen Ma saw that the lights in the studio were on. When she came over and saw Guhan, she was slightly surprised. Sir, Guhan looked up. When did Madam paint this? Chen Ma replied, the day you accompanied Miss Jin back. Guhan nodded, curved his lips to smile, but couldn't smile. After leaving the studio, he returned to his room with Chu Tang. He had told himself countless times that his divorce with Chu Tang was just a fake one. As long as the storm was over, he would propose to Chu Tang again and give her a grand wedding banquet. But somehow, his heart was always empty. He regarded Chu Tang's words today as her nonsense. When she was angry, Chu Tang and his home were in Jingbei. So why wouldn't she come back? Knock knock. The door of the master bedroom was suddenly knocked. Guhan, who was sitting at the end of the bed, raised his head. It was Jianxi. She was wearing thin clothes, her face was slightly ruddy, and she stood at the door of the room, looking at Guhan quietly. Why are you here? Jianxi pursed her lips. I was scared to stay alone in the hotel, so I came to find you. Is it? She lowered her eyes as she spoke. Sorry to bother you. Guhan frowned slightly, but still said, it's okay, it's a little late today. I'll ask Aunt Chen to prepare a guest room for you. You stay here first. When he was about to call Aunt Chen, Jianxi stepped into the room, looking at Guhan with a pair of tender eyes. Brother Han, I don't want to stay in the guest room. Is it okay? She whispered softly. Guhan frowned even deeper. His thin lips opened and closed to refuse, but he met her slightly red eyes. He still softened his heart. When the plane landed in Hong Kong City, it was Sin Chu who came to pick me up. When he was 18 years old, he saved a girl but was accused of sexual assault and was sentenced to 3 years. Because he had a criminal record, no company was willing to take him in. I met him at an art exhibition. He never communicated with others and always kept his eyes down. When others approached him, he would only retreat timidly. Later, one night, I met a gangster on my way home, when I was almost attacked. He happened to pass by. I thought he would treat me coldly, but no, he hardly hesitated for a moment. That day I asked him, what if I bite back? He smiled bitterly, then accept it. I used the power of my family to clear his grievances for him. The truth came out that day. He stood in the distance, looking at me with red eyes across the crowd, and bowed to thank me. 3 years in prison did not wipe out his kindness. My father also threw an olive branch to him because he saved me and arranged for him to join the group, starting from the grassroots. Now, he is my father's most capable assistant. Miss, long time no see. Sin Chu, wearing a windbreaker, took my suitcase. I nodded, and my nose was inexplicably sour. 5 years ago, after I married Guhan, I accompanied him to the north. When I had an accident in my previous life, he was arranged by my father to go to country A for close training, until I died. I never saw Sin Chu again. Miss, after you come back this time, will you leave? He asked me. I said, no. Sin Chu laughed. Mr. Chu is very happy to know that you are back. Suddenly, I was stunned for a moment, and my hands in my pockets tightened, and a trace of bitterness was stained in my heart. At that time, everyone knew about my divorce with Guhan. My father was afraid that I would be wronged, so he flew from Gangcheng to Beijing North overnight. He advised me earnestly. Guhan is always unclear about what he does. Back then, would rather cooperate with the old man of the Jian family than accept your help. To put it nicely, he doesn't want to rely on you. To put it bluntly, isn't he relying on the investment of the Jian family? Shouting, divorce is divorce. Guhan is not suitable for you. He wanted to take me back to Hongcheng, but I didn't want to. Crying and making a fuss to stay, I said with tears in my eyes, I love Guhan, I don't want to divorce. Why should I sacrifice myself to fulfill his kindness? Even if he forces me to death, I will never leave. I won't leave. In the end, my father was so angry with me that he had a heart attack and went to the ICU, and several critical illness notices were issued overnight. My mother's hair turned white. Later, my father woke up and said nothing, but I knew that he was disappointed in me. Before leaving, my mother was still persuading me. Your father has never interfered with any of your decisions in these years, but Guhan is not a good man. At that time, I couldn't listen to anything and insisted on hitting the wall. In the end, I figured it out at the cost of my life. I am not that important to Guhan. Are they all okay? I asked Sinchu. Sinchu nodded. The group is developing very well, and Mr. Chu and his wife are in good health. I smiled and met his cold eyes. Thank you, Sinchu. Thank you for being filial on my behalf. Sinchu shook his head. He said that this was what he should do. If my father and I hadn't helped him back then, he might have died in a corner. The hot topics on social platforms are still emerging in an endless stream, from Jianxi being Guhan's mistress. Now it has evolved into me being a heartless and ungrateful person. Yesterday, a paparazzi took a photo of me and Sinchu at the airport, and now it is said that I had cheated a long time ago. So my relationship with Guhan broke down. I couldn't help laughing, and when I lowered my eyes, the interface of my mobile phone was a photo that Jianxi sent me with her second account, photos of her staying overnight in a villa on the mountainside. Guhan took the initiative to let me stay overnight last night. What do you think Guhan will do tonight? Guhan is a man with a strong sense of responsibility. Now the shackles are gone. Chu Tang, your husband is mine. She tried to provoke me, but my heart had long been calm. Sinchu poured a cup of tea and handed it to me. He glanced at my phone interface worriedly and said in a deep voice, Miss, I will get back all the grievances you have suffered. I didn't answer him, but asked. I heard that my father introduced you to many famous ladies and intended for you to start a family. Why did you refuse? Sinchu seemed to have not expected me to ask this question. He lowered his eyes and rubbed the rim of the teacup with his fingertips. After a long silence, I asked again, because of me? He suddenly looked up, and when he met my gaze, he hid his guilty conscience and avoided it. In the past 5 years, although I have never met Sinchu, he always gave me a generous gift on my birthday. Spending a lot of money, he also transferred money to my account from time to time. He gave me almost all his earnings. I refused many times, but he was still persistent. Later I called him and got angry with him for the first time. I said, Sinchu, you saved me once, and I helped you once, so we are even. It was your father who let you join the group, and you got to where you are today because of yourself. You don't owe me, and I'm not your creditor. Doing this will only destroy my marriage and make Guhan misunderstand the relationship between you and me. After that, Sinchu stopped transferring money to me. Gifts were only given in moderation. Sinchu, I said you don't owe me. As soon as I finished speaking, Sinchu pursed his lips and said, no. What? He looked at me, curled his lips slightly, with a faint smile on his face and love in his eyes. I like the young lady. I know there is a world of difference between me and the young lady. I have never expected the young lady to look back at me. But my heart belongs to the young lady. I don't want to deceive myself, nor do I want to delay others. Sinchu finished speaking, and I raised my eyes and looked at him quietly. He is the same age as me, but he is much more mature than me. When I first saw him, he was timid and out of place. Now he has become the pillar of the group and the person my father values the most. Last night, when I returned to the old house, my father talked to me for a long time, talking about the future of the group and my future. Finally, he asked me 2 more questions. The first one was, do you still like Guhan? I shook my head and gave a negative answer, but for the second question, I was silent. He asked me, are you willing to marry Sinchu? My father has planned to retire. Although Sinchu has been with my father for many years, he is not a member of the Chu family. I was a little confused at first, but now I have an answer. Sinchu, are you willing to marry me? 2 days later in Beijing, Guhan sat in the studio, looking down at Chu Tang being interviewed by the intern that day. The intern asked her curiously, do you still love Mr. Gu now? Chu Tang smiled and replied, no. These 3 simple words made him feel inexplicably depressed. He played this clip countless times, and tried to find something in Chu Tang's eyes. In the end, it was fruitless. He irritably called up the chat box with Chu Tang, but when he opened it, he found that the message ended with him reminding her to get the divorce certificate at the Civil Affairs Bureau at 9 o'clock, and she replied him with a okay, and then there was nothing. In the past, Chu Tang liked to stick to him, and would share with him at any time, no matter big or small, and he would respond in time after seeing it. He flipped through the records. Later, Chu Tang often talked to himself. Occasionally, he just took the time to reply with okay, or I know. The group is very busy. Jianxi suffered from depression after the death of teacher Jian, and she tried to commit suicide again and again. He couldn't take care of it at all. Suddenly, Jiang Yuan popped up a message. Chu Tang is going to marry Xin Chu. Gu Han stood up suddenly and accidentally knocked over the easel next to him. The landscape painting fell to the ground. He hurried to pick it up. A case report was pressed under the drawing board. He was stunned for 2 seconds. And when he finished reading all the contents, his fingertips trembled slightly. The patient has severe mood swings, repeated suicidal thoughts, and severe sleep disorders. It is judged that the patient has a tendency to moderate depression. The date at the end is the day he asked Chu Tang for a fake divorce. Brother Ahan, what happened? After hearing the noise, Jianxi hurriedly trotted from the master bedroom to the studio, when she saw the diagnosis record in Gu Han's hand. Calculation flashed through her eyes. Can I take a look at this case? Jianxi asked in a low voice. Gu Han said nothing, but his heart ached again and again. She took the medical record, flipped through a few pages, pretended to be relieved, patted Gu Han on the shoulder, and comforted him. Brother Han, don't worry, brother. Have you forgotten? I am also a patient with depression. You have seen what it is like when it is on the attack. I saw my sister that day. She was so healthy and didn't look sick at all. My sister might be too angry, so she took a fake medical record to deceive you. Jianxi looked at Gu Han. When she was about to continue speaking, Gu Han suppressed his inner emotions and took the medical record from her. Just after taking 2 steps, he thought of something and turned back to say to her, don't live in the master bedroom after tomorrow. Chu Tang will make a fuss again when he knows. After saying that, Jianxi was stunned. When she reacted and chased him out, Brother Han, Gu Han had already gone downstairs, in such a hurry that he didn't even take his coat. No matter whether the medical record is true or false, no matter whether Chu Tang is going to marry Xin Chu, at this moment, his only thought was to meet Chu Tang and take her home. Xin Chu attached great importance to the wedding with me, and he personally watched every detail. During the day, he went to the company and the wedding scene. At night, he sat in the living room and wrote the invitation stroke by stroke. Xin Chu, just let the assistant arrange these things. You are already very tired at work, so there is no need to spend more time on this. I stood at the stairs holding a cup and said to Xin Chu in the living room. He put down the pen and smiled at me with curved lips. No matter what, I want to give the lady the best. I know that the lady may not have me in her heart, but I put the lady at the top of my heart. The moment I met his eyes, I was in a trance for a moment, and my heart moved for a long time. Miss, don't feel any burden, just be a beautiful bride. Xin Chu still smiled, looking at me with emotions in his eyes. Finally, I smiled and nodded, but I didn't expect that Gu Han would find Gangcheng. Xin Chu and I had just come out of the wedding dress fittings when we saw Gu Han standing under the camphor tree opposite. He was wearing a simple white shirt, his hair was messy. His face was slightly pale, and there was no light in his eyes. His eyes fell on the hands of Xin Chu and I for a moment, then moved away. Gu Han forced a smile and looked at me. Chu Tang, I'm here to take you home. Let's not wait until the beginning of next year. Let's go back and remarry now, okay? As soon as he finished speaking, he took a few steps towards us. Xin Chu subconsciously wanted to stand in front of me, but I stopped him. While straightening his crooked tie, I said softly, wait for me in the car first, I'll be back soon. Mom made your favorite food tonight. Let's go home together later. Xin Chu lowered his eyes to look at me, the corners of his lips slightly raised, and responded, okay. Finally, after a faint glance at Gu Han, he walked towards the garage. At this time, only Gu Han and I were left on the roadside. He subconsciously wanted to get closer to me. I took a few steps back calmly and said softly, Mr. Gu, let's keep some distance between us. Otherwise we will be photographed by paparazzi later. It's time for some rumors on social platforms that I deliberately entangled with my ex-husband. No matter what time, people are always particularly harsh on women. The incident with Jianxi is a good example. It was Gu Han who couldn't weigh it clearly from beginning to end, and in the end it was me who was not generous enough. Chu Tang, Gu Han's eyes were dim, and the bitter smile did not reach his eyes. I have asked my assistant to deal with the things on the platform. I'm sorry that you have been wronged. I didn't know you were in so much trouble. I didn't know Gu Han, you know. I looked at him and said in a light tone, if he didn't know that public opinion would make people painful and depressed, he would not prefer to divorce me to help Jianxi. In my last life, I was framed for having affairs with multiple male models. After being sentenced to divorce from Gu Han, I became infamous and my career plummeted. Everyone was laughing at me. Some even came to me and asked me, Chu Tang, you are so embarrassed to live after your ex-husband has done this to you. If it were me, I would have jumped from the 18th floor, and Mrs. Gu Han never took her seriously. Otherwise how could he have killed her? Later, I suffered from insomnia every night, sitting by the French window and looking at the lights of thousands of houses. I burned the studio. I also burned all the things that Gu Han had given me, as if I could dig Gu Han out of my heart. I vented all the injustice. I hated why the boy who had always loved me would send me to a dead end. In the end, I committed suicide by cutting my wrists. To this day, I still remember the feeling of blood draining from my body bit by bit. One Guhan opened his mouth to explain, but when the words came to his lips, he couldn't say them. Finally, I could only bow my head helplessly. Atang, I will make it up to you. I couldn't help laughing. I have heard this sentence too many times. After Jianxi's father passed away, Guhan left the night of the engagement party. He said, Chutang, something happened to Jianxi. I have to go and see. On the wedding day, Jianxi threatened to commit suicide again. After he sent me back to the wedding room, he did not return for the whole night. At that time, I was shaken whether to continue this relationship, but seeing Guhan's tired look, I still endured it. I love Guhan, so I am willing to accompany him through all the hardships. Every time I broke an appointment, it would eventually turn into a sentence, Chutang, I will make it up to you in the future. Guhan always thought that our life was long, but he forgot that love would be consumed, the last life until the end. I can no longer tell whether I love Guhan or am obsessed with him. After a while, I said sarcastically, Guhan, actually I have very little to ask for, but you still don't care about me. I am also the baby that my parents love. Why should you trample on me like this? So forget it. After the words fell, I retracted my gaze, and when I turned sideways and was about to leave, Guhan grabbed my arm in panic. His tall body almost stumbled and fell, and his pale lips opened and closed. I don't agree. You can't just let it go, Chutang. You are my wife. You can't leave me. The last tone trembled. I laughed and pulled my hand away. We are divorced. Guhan, you forced me to sign the divorce agreement, threatened me to attend the press conference to clarify, and watch me go to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get a divorce certificate. You did all this. You can't deny it, right? Guhan was speechless. I want to leave. When he wanted to catch up again, I raised my chin slightly in the direction behind him. Mr. Gu, you and Miss Jen are actually quite a good match. Guhan's face instantly turned pale when he arrived at Hong Kong in the early morning. After his assistant checked Chutang's schedule, he came to see her without a break, but when he saw her wearing a wedding dress and laughing and joking with Sin Chu, he gradually stopped and stood under the camphor tree and watched in a daze. I don't know since when, he seemed to rarely see Chutang laughing so happily. Whenever they met, they would quarrel because of Jianxi. Slowly, he no longer went home often, either staying at the company or staying out all night with Jiang Yuan and others. So at that moment, he clearly understood what Chutang said that day at the Civil Affairs Bureau was from the heart. She didn't want him anymore, but he couldn't live without her. He stood outside for as long as the two people in the bridal shop were busy. He even thought about rushing in and beating Sin Chu up, warning him, don't covet my wife, but in the end he still couldn't take that step. He was afraid that Jianxi would hate him. Brother Ahan, my sister has been gone for a long time. Jianxi tugged at Guhan's clothes and pulled back Guhan, who was in a daze. He lowered his eyes and looked at her, his voice a little hoarse. Why are you here? I heard that my sister is going to marry someone else. I'm afraid you'll be sad, so I came to see you, she said softly, and then when she was about to hug Guhan, Guhan frowned and reached out to press Jianxi's shoulders. For a moment, her eyes were wet. Brother Ahan, my sister doesn't want you. I want you. Let's get married too, okay? Guhan never refused any of her requests. She thought that after Chutang divorced him, she would be able to successfully take the position of Mrs. Gu, but at this moment, Guhan's face suddenly turned cold. Jianxi, do you know what you are saying? I know, Guhan, I like you. This is the first time she has spoken her heart directly. Guhan smiled palely, and then burst into tears. Jiang Yuan has advised him countless times. Jianxi looks at you with restless eyes. If you can't let your marriage be ruined, I advise you to send her away, Guhan. You are the one who is confused and can't see clearly what Jianxi thinks of you. Send Jianxi away, don't let her ruin your marriage. But he never believed it once. It really deserves it. One port city is far away from Beijing North, but once something is posted on the social platform, it will ferment quickly. The third day of Guhan's entanglement with me, Sin Chu sent the evidence of Jianxi's falsification of medical records to Guhan's email, and listed the evidence that Guhan had missed countless appointments with me for Jianxi over the years to form a closed loop, and published it on the internet. Overnight, public opinion was polarized, but it had nothing to do with me. Some say that Jianxi was seeking repayment for a favor and ruined my marriage with Guhan, which led to the breakdown of our relationship. Others say that Guhan was just being hypocritical. If he really wanted to repay Jianxi's father for his kindness, he would have to pay the money and resources. He had to bully his wife and force her to divorce. Guhan's reputation was damaged. The group's stock was volatile. Not long after, I accidentally found evidence that Jianxi directed and acted herself, hired someone to take photos of her and Guhan entering and leaving the hotel at the same time, and hired internet users to call her a mistress. The social platform was in chaos. Guhan was also busy and exhausted. He wanted to send Jianxi abroad, but after seeing this topic, he almost strangled Jianxi to death on the roadside. He asked Jianxi, "Why do you do this?" Jianxi wanted to play the emotional card at first, until she was strangled to the point of suffocation. She suddenly laughed crazily and admitted it openly. "I just want to be Mrs. Gu and force Chu Tang to divorce you, Guhan. If you really love Chu Tang, I won't be able to take advantage of you." Guhan was so angry that he vomited a pool of blood and fainted on the spot. The video was filmed by passersby and reposted wildly on the internet. Gu's stock price went down all the way. After waking up, Guhan became unconscious and was kicked out of the position of president, and Jianxi. Now he is notorious and has to go abroad. It's just unfortunate. He got into a car accident on the way to the plane and died on the spot. One on the wedding day, Sinchu gave me a grand wedding, with flowers all over the city and fireworks all night long, and everyone knew it. When a guest teased that I married Sinchu because it was a blessing from my previous life, Sinchu sneered and asked him to leave the wedding directly. After the oath, he said frankly, "I am the son-in-law of the Chu family. I am a member of the Chu family in this life, and I will be a ghost of the Chu family after death." Sinchu knew that I might not be completely in love with him, but he never changed his kindness to me. On the wedding night, he hugged me tightly, as if he was afraid that I would leave and disappear. I didn't know until I asked him. I didn't say anything for a long time. Jianxi behind him was wearing a white dress, with Guhan's coat on her shoulders. Her lips were pale, and her eyes were red. He was conscious for a while before his death. He sent the case report I left in the studio to Sinchu. He also wrote me a letter. The letter was very long. Every word was full of shame for me. He also talked about a nightmare he had. In the dream, he forced me to divorce, but I refused to compromise. He framed me and sent me to the beds of several men. In the end, I was so desperate that I cut my wrists and committed suicide. He said that he didn't mean to do it in the dream. He just wanted me to compromise and bend over. He didn't think that he would make me desperate to death. He didn't even know that my illness was real. He said that if he knew, he would never do this to me. When he saw the bathroom full of blood, his heart was broken. The person who wanted to die was himself. The letter ended with a sentence. Fortunately, the dream did not happen. There was another sentence. "I'm sorry," I sneered. Finally, I threw the letter into the trash can, along with the case report. Miss Sinchu frowned slightly. I whispered, "The former Chu Tang was sick, but I am not the former Chu Tang." After leaving him, the illness was cured. After a long time, Sinchu smiled helplessly and dotingly. I looked at him and smiled too. Fortunately, I have nothing lost in this life.